Make sure this is off.
Six o'clock. Your clock says something different.
If you'd use your Chromebook, you can.
I go back.
6 o'clock now. Roll call, Director Creel,
Present.
Director Parrott,
Present.
Director Shopee.
Here.
And Director Robinson is not present. I'm Director Rowan and I am present. I'd like to welcome everyone. Communications and celebrations.
So just a couple different items on here, more end of the year celebratory kind of things. There's a picture on there we did like an outdoor activity kind of morning where we're celebrating the great job, the fundraising efforts that we did for the American Heart Association. We did the duct tape portion of it like the week before or 2 weeks before. And then once we had some nice weather, we went outside and did exercises around the track as a whole school. We had our transitional kindergarten and first grade track and field day. I want to give a shout out to Jen Conaway. She did just a phenomenal job. She's been planning that, doing the bulk of the legwork, getting it all set up and everything for years. And so I know it can be kind of stressful adding all that onto your regular teaching duties. But they had a nice day for it on the rescheduled day. The upper grades, they kind of decided because the weather just wasn't working out. So some grades did it grade specific and some went out there whenever they could and did small activities. But we're hopeful that next year we can get everything in and have a little better luck with the weather. We had preschool graduation, so 65-ish. Right around 65 preschoolers graduated and are going to be going to either transitional kindergarten or kindergarten next year. We've got a big group in both, and we're trying to monitor those numbers, making sure that we have class sizes that will allow our kids to be successful. First grade attended a career day at the Iowa Central Career Academy, and they were, I have a first grader, so I was able to hear all about it, and he was just so excited about it. So a fun day for that. And then we're already halfway done with our summer school program. We go 3 days a week for 3 hours a day. And it's 4 weeks total, but we kind of spread it out. And so we're halfway done with that. The kids have been going to the public library every Thursday, and that's what the picture is that you see on your bottom left. And it's been kind of hit and miss with our turnout. We've had, what I've heard is better attendance this year than we've had in years past, which is good. But I guess I don't know any different because this is my first go around with summer school. And then we had all of our instructional coaches attended a student-centered coaching training in Fort Dodge with Diane Sweeney, who's, if you know education, she's kind of a big name. And so they did that training. And then we had our preschool open house for all of our incoming preschoolers, and had that, and it was a good turnout and good way to get the information out. Any questions or anything?
Thank you.
So we got our ISS results back. We're still waiting on the breakdown of like the subgroups and stuff. I'm hoping to have that for July, but I'm not sure. It kind of depends on the state. Our ELA English scores are getting closer to our desired mark. We'd like to see at least 80% proficient, if not higher. So we're going to keep pushing away at the reading and writing in the content areas for our PD focus for next year. Math is definitely something we're going to need to look at district-wide to identify, is the curriculum or the resources that we're using support what we need to have as an outcome, and then do the instructional strategies. Also do that. So that is going to be a district conversation. around math. Science personally frustrates me a little bit because it takes 3 years to get through all the standards, but they don't test them their junior year, they test them their sophomore year. So they're never gonna do really well unless they're an advanced kid. So that score isn't that great, but that's kind of the nature of it. I don't know why they picked the sophomore year to test them. But, also the special ed department adopted a program called LLI, which is used at the elementary and middle school, to support SDI and reading. So there'll be some changes in terms of how we operate special ed next year. So, those things people can ask about, things like that. And we're gonna have details coming out in August about what that'll look like. Also, we had the 8th graders come up the last week of school and visit. They spent an hour or two in the building and toured and had some questions answered, things like that. There'll be a parent and new 9th grade meeting the week before we start school in the fall. So parents will want to watch the mail, Facebook, things like that for the announcement of that meeting. And that'll allow those new freshmen to come into the building, get their schedule, go through the building again a couple days before they come in person, parents to get questions answered, that sort of thing. So it's already on the calendar. Any questions?
I have a general question. How is summer lunch and breakfast going?
I don't know, I didn't talk to you.
Anybody kind of know how?
They have a really good turnout on Tuesday, Wednesday, and
When you have
Thursday.
school?
When we have school, because we scheduled everything so that they bus them in, they'd eat breakfast, come to class, go to lunch, and then go home. But Monday and Fridays, they have a big drop off. But like I've been in there, just poking my head in, and there's a lot of people. Seems like a lot of people coming in, like families. So like a parent with a group of kids, kind of thing. So think
Well, I
it's
know
really
my
cool.
son asked right away, is it hot food again this year? And he's kind of hit or miss too,
Yeah.
but I know that was
I
kind
know
of a
like
big
on
thing.
Crispito Day, your
Yeah.
number goes up, it just. it can be
So,
all kind of different
And I
terms.
kind of forget to ask him and make sure that he's gone, but, so I was just curious, like I said, I'm hoping they're taking advantage of it.
Thank you for the report. Item number 5, conflict of interest. Item number 6, public comment cards. We have none. So item number 7, approval of the proposed agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the proposed agenda. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 8, routine business matters and consent items.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the routine business matters and consent. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 9, graduation requirements.
So, and to follow state law now says that you have to have one basic diploma, and then you can have advanced diplomas on it, on top of that. And so Heidi has reworked the diploma scenario down to our basic diploma, which is pretty well what we had for our alternative diploma. And then we will offer 2 additional options with that. One, an honors diploma, which is what currently is our normal diploma, where you have the more classes, and then a high honors, which is taking your college bound courses and your upper level courses. This is to follow what Iowa law currently states, so I would recommend that you approve this.
I'll make the motion to approve the plan as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the graduation requirement plan as presented. Are there any questions or discussion?
The main thing with this, which I think will help a little bit, is we had people that would hedge on an alternative diploma because they felt it was less. Now there's no, I mean, it's just a diploma, so you don't have to worry about the word alternative on there.
And you'd probably have several in the high honors just based on the college courses, correct? I
Yeah.
mean,
It's also your math and your science though, so you would take
So-
a college course without taking
Okay.
your physics and those things, so.
so
it
maybe
just-
we wouldn't have near as,
Well, and what I'd like to
Many?
be able to do too is like give distinguishing, so I've been talking with Jostens about, so like the honor, the honors diploma, they would get like a little silver, honors like sticker on their diploma, and then I'm looking at what would the cost be for like a silver, medal to wear at graduation, and then gold for the high honors, and it would say high honors and put on there. Students that are gonna be college bound, four-year university bound are really gonna need to do that high honors anyway. So it just has them do those electives, but it also has them do 8 credits in each of the core areas as opposed to only 6 in social studies and 6 in math and 6 in science. So, but then with the honors diploma, it just requires those, the 8, 6, 6, 6, and then the electives. So a kid that is going to a trade school may want that honors diploma, but the trade school, like Iowa Central or wherever, would take the basic diploma as well. So it wouldn't hurt them, but obviously most kids are probably gonna wanna do some electives to find out what they're passionate about and good at, so.
The basic just gets rid of a lot of the electives.
Yeah, it takes the electives off the table for some of those kids. We got kids that have to work. And so sometimes we have a tug of war about, well, I want my diploma, but I also need to work. And so maybe that basic diploma kind of answers that question. Well, we can get you out of here in a more streamlined fashion so you can work. Or maybe like this last year, we had a kid who left 3 periods before the end of the day to go to work. She worked all night and would come to school. And so by having that basic diploma, we don't have to worry about, oh gosh, you're gonna be here 5 years to get that. So it'll help, a lot of kids. But I
So
think
do
it's
they have to
still-
declare what they want to do?
No.
Or-
No, it could shift, and most of the time, we don't really have an idea, even with the old way. It would be the end of the sophomore year, junior year, where we'd really start to hammer in about, which diploma are we really gonna be going for?
If you go to
So-
class and attend on a regular basis and pass your classes, you will go into the honors.
Easy,
easy.
yeah.
I mean, that's
Mhm.
what it's set up to do. If you go 4 years, pass your classes, you will fall into the honors one.
Okay. So with it, if a student is just getting a basic diploma because they just need to get out of school, basically, what's the duration? Is that like 3 years they can finish that in, or?
They'd have to they could possibly do it in 3 years, but they have to buckle in, because English is set to be one full year every year, so they'd have to
Okay.
double up on English, which some kids do that. They double up on it and have 10 credits by the time they're done.
You
but-
still need 4 years of English, 3 years of science, 3
Yeah.
years of math. It's
Okay.
the electives you don't need.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think a kid could get out in 3, but they'd have to be motivated to do it too. And some of the kids that are electing to that basic diploma may struggle along the way. So it still might take 4.
Okay. I was just curious. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Item number 10, measures of college ready.
I will let Heidi explain this to you.
Okay, so, the board of directors at Iowa Central Community College adopted the measures of college readiness that you have before you, correct?
Mhm.
Basically, what this does is it allows alternative options for meeting the statewide proficiency requirements. And this allows like our students, so the goal here is that you guys would approve it. You have to approve it in its whole or not at all. We can't take pieces out. They already surveyed like the schools in the area before to say which ones of these do we find the most valuable. There was like a list of 20 different possible measurements. So then this was created by the area saying these are the measurements that we value and think would be reasonable. So if you approve it, then our students would be able to, use these different measurements when considering whether or not they can take college courses through Iowa Central. So that would also include the Career Academy, as opposed to the usual test scores. If you choose not to approve it, then we have to keep our students held to the original standards of test scores to get in and like ranking in the class and that sort of thing.
And I would recommend you approve that. We have a lot of kids that take those classes and this is
Like,
how we.
yeah, like one of the things, like right now, they have to go take the AccuPlacer test. Typically, we take them to the Career Academy in the spring, so they can take it for the next year, and if a kid doesn't do well on that test, they don't get to take college courses. And obviously, not all kids test well, but they definitely perform well in other areas.
The other side is when we set up the academy was set up for all students, including students where the classroom is not where they like to do the tech stuff or the hands-on stuff when you get into the manufacturing. And we need to get those kids into the manufacturing and give them some employment skills, so.
So who administers, like, you said Iowa Central administers the entrance exam or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah,
however you wanna
yeah,
phrase
so
it.
like the AccuPlacer exam is given, they can go to Iowa Central and take it, and this is a common, community college testing tool, it's not just Iowa Central that uses it. But then we also arrange to have it be given, like, they'll get it in August as well for kids.
Mhm.
But the kids will just go to the Career Academy, but we have in the past taken them all out there, like all the
Okay.
sophomores their sophomore year to take it.
And is that, if they take that there, is it applicable to any college or only Iowa Central?
No, it's, I don't think it works for 4-year, but I think all community colleges. You know, the ACT is another test score that they will take. You know, but a lot of our kids don't take the ACT.
So they'll take one or the other? They don't have to take
Well, for a
both?
four-year university, if you want to go to
Yeah.
Iowa State, you gotta take the ACT
Right.
still.
Yeah.
So this is more career and tech.
Unless you go Iowa Central, then.
Yeah,
it
if
is
you go junior college there, you don't.
Do we have a motion to accept the measures of college readiness?
So moved.
So. Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the measures of college readiness as presented. Are there any questions or discussion?
Is it really any different than what we've been doing so far? I mean, not, other than you're saying
They
to get
keep
them into
trying
the
to open
academy a
up
little?
ways. Yeah, they keep trying to open up ways to get kids in that's not based on the proficiency. Once this Iowa went to the standards, your proficiency rates we're under a new testing system, so your proficiency rates have dropped. If you're not proficient in math, does that limit your ability to be able to go over there to take technical courses?
Okay,
So,
so this should help them.
and with us, with the language barrier, it will help us. It would work to our advantage
Okay.
because whether you want it or not, any standardized test is still a reading test. If you can't read it in your language or read it, you're in trouble.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 11, bread and milk bids for 21-22.
In front of you are bread and milk bids. We only have one company that, we requested from 3 companies. We only have one company that actually turned in for the milk this year. We always have only got one for bread. We looked into it one year and Bimbo makes everybody's bread. It's very seldom. I mean, they sell them and they put a bunch of different names on them, but they're still the only maker of bread in the area. So Bimbo for years has been our only bid. I asked Teresa to pull up what last year's bids are. This year, they're about 3% or 3 cents higher on everything, which is about a 6% increase. I guess from my standpoint, that's higher, but I'm glad we got a firm bid in because the way you've got inflation going right now and so forth. It's nice to have that in. So I would recommend that you approve Anderson Erickson as your milk and Bimbo Bakery as your bread.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the milk and bread bids. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Item number 12, set special meeting for year-end business.
We need a noon meeting to approve the final bills before July 1. I need 3 people that can either attend in person or by phone. I believe Tuesday, Wednesday are like the 29th and 30th. I'd look at one of those 2 dates. It's just kind of what works for you guys.
I could do either at this point.
The 29th works better for me.
Is that Tuesday?
I can do Tuesday.
I would need a motion then to set that one.
I'll make the motion to set the special meeting for end of year business on Tuesday, the 29th. at noon.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to set the special meeting on Tuesday, the 29th at noon for year-end business. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 13, approve SIAC recommendations.
So if you go to the back and it'd be about
Page
page
30.
37, SIAC is a little bit different this year. You had no SIAC meeting last year because of COVID. You had no test results, and you're really supposed to be basing your goals on the years before test results. We did have a good meeting. We had good conversation during it, and talked about what our goals are for the next year. We, at the time of the meeting, we did not have a lot of our test scores back. We were just starting to get some of them to come in. So next year will be more test scores. So these were the goals that our principals have set and put in there with input from the SIAC committee. So I would recommend that you approve those.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the SIAC recommendations. Are there any questions or discussion?
Can I approve them since I was sitting there? Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 14, discuss renewal of structural support levy and PEP levy.
Okay, so this is gonna seem a little odd to have it this early, but you have to, because once they moved our elections to every other year, you are really 2 election cycles away from having both of those expire. So this coming year, we will have a school board election. On that election, Teresa and I have talked, and we would like to put our instructional support levy and our PEPL levy back up for renewal. Just in case if it wouldn't pass, you've got one more shot. Otherwise, you run out. Once it's approved, you get 10 years. So what we're currently under is good for 10 years, and this would extend that. The one question that I would have, and it's completely up to you, when you're looking at the PEBL, our current PEBL is the 67% PEBL. It has been that way for a long time. You have now bonded against your PEBL silo, so your income has dropped in that. Clarion did it a few years ago to where they raised that to $1.34 per thousand, bring in more money to do your construction, mechanical, those type of projects. That is the one thing you have to decide on rates is if you're going to do a renewal, at what rate are you going to bring it in and ask for a vote on. Teresa, my one question would be, if you do the if you do the physical plant and equipment levy at the 67 and you want to do a 134, are those 2 separate votes like it is with a bond to where you vote the one and then you vote the additional, or would that be one solid?
It would depend on if you want to just, like, Pepple ends in 2025, if you just want to start there and go forward at $1.34 or whatever, it
Yeah.
would just be that. But if you want to maybe take these
If you would increase it, I want to do it
in
early.
between,
Yep, okay.
then it would take 2.
I don't care what you do. I do know that our tax rate is dropping, which is not a bad thing, but you also have a major asset that's on the tax rolls for 10 years, and 10 years moves pretty quick. We're already about 3 years into that for facility improvements, and we are doing a lot of facility improvements. If you just look at the amount of numbers that we're putting out into this building and into playgrounds and into classroom furniture and that stuff. And I'm not sure that pattern's gonna change a whole lot in the next 4 or 5 years, and you still have a track that's sitting out there that needs some attention, so.
And the 67 cents that we get in Pepple is also supplemented by 30.
We get a 33 cent,
The board
33 cent the
approves.
board approves. The
So
67 is
we're actually getting $1, but you can double it. The question would lie, there is some risk in taking forward a proposal for higher taxes, maybe worse right now because of the COVID and stuff, but the money would not be wasted, obviously. That's something we really need, but it is completely up to the board. But you're also, at the same time, if you're running instructional support and Pepple, you're asking for money. And we have needs for all the money that we get. And we have done a good job of lowering taxes when we had the opportunity to do so. But people don't always remember when you lower taxes. They remember well when you raise them, so.
You will notice too that our instructional support is at 7% and the maximum is 10%. So we're leaving money that could be used for instruction.
Right.
Instructional support goes to general fund, so it can be used for any general fund purpose, like staff, any general fund
Yep.
purpose, whereas Pepple can only be used for.
Facilities, really.
Right.
So the one thing with the instructional support, we are one of the few places that does not have 10%, but very few. A lot of them that don't have it are schools that have a private school in their district where it's hard to pass. I don't know the history of why it was set at 7%. There's
Because we had a failed election.
yeah. There is one advantage to it. The board can also pass the instructional support levy, and then if it gets enough signatures, it would go to a vote. If you ever get short on money, you can raise that to 10% and bring in some extra income to save some positions. Right now, the budget is working on 7%. It gives you an emergency plan if you ever had to, and it comes and the public says, we don't want to cut this. Here's a funding stream to help support it.
When do we need to make a decision on this for sure? To get it on the election?
Actually, I think I have that in here. It has to go.
Yeah, I think it was in that,
The public
Is it on?
measures must be filed with the county auditor by 12 noon on the day after the nomination period when it closes, so September 17th.
Okay, so
So we
we
have
have a
time,
little bit of time. If
but
the-
I caution a little bit too, because I feel like we'd want to put info out
Right,
too.
Traditionally, if you leave everything the same, it's a lot easier to pass because people are used to it and it goes that way. If you increase it, you need to have a list of here's what we're going to do for improvements to increase it. That was one of the questions when Mr. Morgan was in and talking about athletic facilities and what other schools are doing. Here's a funding mechanism. If you have ideas of here's needs for the community, here's a funding mechanism to help meet some of those needs.
the other part of it is that if you just ask for the same thing that we have currently, you also then have the option at a later date to come back and say, well, the public has asked us to go for that extra 67 cents, you know, as in when he came in and said.
If you have a list of projects, yeah,
Right.
here's a funding source. for it.
So you have that, and that's why I'm kind of thinking maybe wait till next meeting, next regular meeting to make the decision, give you some time to
Absolutely.
ruminate on this and say, okay, what do you think is the proper way to do this that will be the most beneficial? Because it may be that go ahead and get renewed what we have now, and then as projects come up, then we can say, well, we need this, please support us and do that, so.
Which is currently the 7% and the $1.34.
No.
No.
67.
67.
The
we're at half
67.
of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
going, okay, that's where I was
The
looking at that.
67 plus the board.
Plus the 33.
So,
Okay.
But you're only voting on either a 67 or a $1.30.
so the
Okay,
reality
that's where I
is,
was looking at
the
that. wrong.
reality would be then, because you're doubling the 67 cents, but you also would keep the 33
Oh,
cents,
that's
so
the
you would
bonus,
actually
sorry.
be,
I was looking at that.
A dollar.
60,
Yeah, $1.60.
Yeah.
$1.67.
All right, I was looking at the
So-
wrong column.
It can get confusing, but
I think too, by looking at it earlier and getting it in place, if down the road you wanted to do a bond issue, this would help in your rating, and
Yeah, it stretches it out.
Yeah.
You know what the income stream is for a
it would
longer
be
period of
more
time.
favorable for future planning, but
When they used to do elections every year, it wasn't so bad because you started a couple years before. If it gets voted down, then you do a huge education campaign of this is what we've had and why you need it. But now that it's every other year, if you do it now and it's voted down, you got 2 years before you can put it back up. And then you're at the,
you can do a special election, but then those technically are difficult too, because you don't get turnout like you would
Yeah.
at a regular. And
it's
so
not
you
with the
know,
other
it's the
elections.
city
Yeah.
and the school election together, so.
so what does the board want to do? Reflect on it for a month or make a decision now?
Do you think it's okay if we wait a month based on your
Yeah, sure.
timing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
I'd say
You might get some input on it and
reflect it for a month.
Do we need a motion to that effect?
No, because this is
No,
just a
okay.
discussion, so
Discussion, so.
we don't.
I would
Just
prefer,
kind
I
of
would
give
prefer
you
to
the
wait to.
info.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
This is a really good document because you not only know the rates, you know what it brings in.
Right.
But that debt service is gonna fall big time because.
next year, you see, this is the last year we're making any type of bond payment. You're seeing a big drop again. A big drop is good, but nobody remembers a drop. They remember a 30-cent increase. And
And
that's why
I
we try to
believe we could-
stabilize it.
I believe if we put the information out there, we could actually increase voted PEPAL to $1.34 and instructional support to 10% and still have a lower
Overall
tax
drop.
rate or at least level. But we might not see that in the future because once it drops, it's really hard to go up.
Can you raise one and not the other?
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
both,
that-
they're
I mean,
individual.
They're
votes.
individual, okay.
Yep.
But do most do them together or just depends on the
It
circumstances?
just depends on the circumstances.
Well,
What really
obviously-
screwed you up or messed it up was when they went to the every other year elections. Now it's putting a 25 and a 26.
See,
It's sometimes, it used to be easier to
That's what I
put
was-
one on at a time because you're only educating them on one thing.
Okay,
that's why they're different.
They're different, but,
Now it just makes sense to have them together.
together.
And the final year for instructional support is 2026. And
you're the same
final
2
year
years
of
off, the
PEPAL.
cycle go off on that.
Any other questions? Item number 15, purchases over $25,000.
Okay, I have some this month. I go to my notes.
It's page 58.
Yeah, but I've updated them too since then, because I went out early. We have, let me get to the page. What page did you say, Teresa?
58.
Okay. Tuck pointing. Logan and I looked at the tuck pointing of the high school. This is one side, this is the front side. Tuck pointing is very similar to what they did, or is what they did over here to this building, where you clean it up, you find where your cracks are, where your mortar is gone, you refill those, and you really take care of the brick. That school is in need of tuck pointing at this point. I thought the quote would be a lot higher than that. The quote came in at 64,000. I recommend that you approve that and get that done to help the longevity of the building, the looks of the building, and I kind of want to see what the condition is when they get in to do it, to see what my other sides are going to be, because I'm guessing they will be very similar. Furniture for Emerson Building. This building, and it's got some other furniture in it, because by moving, our plan right now is to move 6 classrooms over here. When you move 6 classrooms over here, that opens some additional space over there. So you do have some classroom furniture at the high school. You also have some at the elementary, as we look to add some positions, including a 4th kindergarten. Because things are delayed, I went ahead and started putting this together so we can get some of this stuff ordered. I got a thing today, the delivery date is still the middle of September. But when you put all the furniture together, it's $133,594. Shipping is not included on that. Shipping would be on top of it. This is just to get the ball rolling on the furniture. It's high, but you're also fully putting in 6 classrooms up here. And that's teachers' desks, that's students' chairs, that's everything there. Elementary equipment. So the back playground, in better terms, is getting, it's old. It was brought over from Leland Hall, I believe. The custodians keep kind of piecing it together. Part of the ESSER funds is you can do playgrounds to help spread kids out. Our option would be to shut that down and put everybody on one playground, which means if we can put another playground in, use ESSER 3 money and spread it out, that's a great use for it. We had 4 different companies bid it. We looked at different options. Jared picked the most expensive. No, I'm the one I gave him. I cut it down a little bit, but it is playground equipment, the new surface that they put under it, like I'm going to call it the artificial rubber or whatever. And then that is also going over to the other playground and pulling up those mats that are coming up like this in the corners and putting that surface under there. The one additional cost that you would have to this is we will have to either put rock down to pour that rubber on top, or concrete. So we're getting bids right now to put a concrete pad to put the rubber over the top for the playground equipment. The last one is speakers for the high school in Emerson. We looked at options for amplification systems, especially when you're in a classroom and you're wearing masks. It made it very difficult to hear, or you had to talk the whole time. Amplification systems, some of the options also included the bell systems and things like that. We found a wonderful system. Mr. Lennon did a lot of work on it. He got a quote for it, and it was way too expensive. That being said, we still have to have a way to connect that building to this building with the bell schedule and all of that stuff. And so we went back and just said, can you give us a quote for that building and this building? When we got into it, you cannot find a company that will do it any other way than this company. And so that is the quote we ended up with to get. It's an amplification system. It's also your intercom system. It's also your bell system, all of that included with it. So that is our last one. 3 of these 4 are ESSER funds, and my plan would be to use ESSER 3 funds for those. And that's that last group of 1.7 million that we got. I would recommend that you approve all of those.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the purchases over 25,000. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So now do we have the ESSER plan expenses, or that's just rolled? in?
Okay, so that's a different thing, ESSER plan is, that's a different agenda item.
Okay.
So one of the rules with the ESSER 3, and they keep coming out with more guidance. They now have a superintendent meeting with the with the Department of Ed every month to where they kind of tell us what's going on. ESSER 3 has a lot more strings attached than the other ones did. One of them is that we need to have an ESSER 3 plan, how we're going to expend the money and allow people to put input into that if they wish. One of the requirements is that you have some type of public forum, so that's the board meeting. So for the next probably 2 years, you are going to have an agenda item on there that talks about ESSER plan expenditures. These are working documents that this is just what I've been working on with it to put what salaries we have going into it. I will not need approval for any of it. We will approve stuff during the regular board meeting, but we'll add it to the plan. So if anybody wants to see where the money goes, if anybody has input on it, you can put those ideas in it. If you look on it, I have some of the things that say order, some of the things say denied, some of the things say too expensive. You know, it's got my notes on it of ideas that people have brought to me and what the outcome is and if it's something we can make happen. So really all that is a chance to show you guys what we're doing for ESSERs and allow anybody, if they come to a meeting, to ask questions on what we're looking to do with ESSER money.
Were those 3 from these last purchases, is that the start of ESSER 3?
Not really. So the rule a month ago was you had to spend all your ESSER 2 before you could spend ESSER 3.
Okay.
So we went and we spent all our ESSER 2 money. That way you could start digging into your 20% of your ESSER 3 money. Since then, they've changed it to you can spend the 20% portion of the ESSER 3 before you spend all of the ESSER 2.
Okay.
But right now, all of our ESSER 2 is spent. So anything that we're doing moving forward is ESSER 3.
Is ESSER 3, okay.
And at some point, when we get final approval for them, I'll try to separate that out to show what we're doing.
So what we're looking to approve,
You don't have to approve anything. I'm just giving you information.
but do we need to approve this resolution?
That's next.
That's next.
And that isn't,
That's the other.
that has,
That's nothing to do with this. No.
Okay, so this is just informational.
and this will continue beyond.
You're also going to see, at some point, we're gonna have to bring back the return to learn plan. Now, we had to all put one in last year and we had to discuss it. State was fine with that. The state has got rid of their requirement that you need to return to learn plan. And now it looks like ESSER 3 is going to require that you have a return to learn plan. So they're
They're
supposed to
calling
give us,
it lost learning.
they're going to give us more guidance in July on how to write the plan, which is due in August. And then we'll have to have an item on here where we discuss and make sure we're set up.
The positions that you have listed here, the custodian, the lost learning.
Yep.
That sort of thing, staff and coordinator, long-term subs, so like when the money runs out, do those people lose their job?
Yes, so not really, not all of them. If you look at the interventionist, I have listed those, not on this sheet, on when we're advertising as 2-year positions. My plan would be as if you had somebody over the 2 years, we'd work, if you hire an elementary interventionist, we'll work them into a classroom. Right now, positions are so hard to fill, I don't think you'll ever fill them, which is gonna make it hard to do the 20%.
Okay.
Some of it is me just trying to spend money.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're saving it in the general fund. If it's in the general fund, I have total flexibility, or you have the ability to
Right.
spend it. If it's at this one, I gotta get permission. So if I can pay added custodial, which we did, we added a custodian for this, out of the ESSER funds, that's gonna free up 50,000 in the general fund, which allows me to spend it on whatever we want to spend it on.
So do people that take these positions know this money is fluctuating money? In other words, it might not be there and,
I have
2
never
years.
hired somebody I don't plan on keeping long term.
Anything else? Item number 17, resolution to transfer funds for safety equipment.
Safety equipment can be paid out of the general fund. It comes out of your activities, which activities are extremely hard to balance, especially For us, it's every year, but in a COVID year, it's really hard when you can't have a crowd with it. So this is something that the state allowed us to do a couple of years ago, and we just need a resolution to do that.
This is safety equipment for football is
Yep.
what this is, but you will have a resolution for ESSER funds to be transferred to activity.
That's
Next
something
month.
different, yep, to help account for lost income.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the resolution to transfer the funds for safety equipment. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 18, early graduation request.
We have one early graduation request. Heidi, I believe this is for next year. If you get to, mid-year, as long as they meet the requirements, I'm fine with it, so I recommend you approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the early graduation request. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 19, district developed service delivery plan.
So on page 61, this was a requirement they put in right when I first came here. This is something that has to be updated every 5 years. It is a plan that monitors what the caseload is for special ed and then gives appeal processes to parents and teachers for caseloads and delivery of special ed services. We met right after school got out. We reviewed our plan. We made sure that it met current law. Once you do it, there's a comment period. That comment period has to be a month. And so the draft is being presented here. If anybody would like to see a copy, they can come to my office and see a copy. If anybody has a comment, they have a copy, they can have a comment, and then we would approve it at our July meeting. It is identical to what we had in the last time that we put together. It follows the state law. It follows the, just the requirements that we need to meet the goals of the state. But if anybody would like to comment on it, they can come talk to me, see it, and leave comments, and those comments can be shared with the board before we approve it.
So at this time, you're not looking for.
I'm not looking for anything other than
Question.
a chance for you guys to review it, and if anybody has questions, they can talk to you, they can talk to me. They just have 30 days to ask questions if they want to.
Any questions at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item number 20, election, November 2nd of 2021.
Just want you to have the information in front of you that filing period is August 23rd to September 16th. Page 70, we have two directors, John Rowland and Aaron Parrott. So now you know, and I can get you set up with nomination petition,
You have to get
30 signatures.
30 signatures of district residents.
And if you aren't gonna run again, you have to find your replacement.
No pressure.
None.
Any questions on that?
Lot going on.
Board member reports. Superintendent's report.
Just a few things we haven't went over. One, hiring teachers is very difficult right now. It's been difficult this spring. I'm not hitting the panic button yet, but come July, we're gonna have to start looking at some creative options. It is not a here problem, it is a statewide problem. I was on a webinar today, they had the monthly superintendent one from the state. Somebody asked the question, is the state doing anything to address the shortage of teachers? And they kind of said, well, we know that it's hard to do stuff and hard to fill high need areas. It's everywhere now. And the lady said, I can't hire elementary teachers. That's, if you're a teacher with experience and a good background, people are looking for you and you can go. For the first time this year, we've had 2 candidates that we've hired that have been really slow on getting the contracts in and then taking another job before they sign the contract and put them in. And that's, you know, it used to be you'd have 200 apps for elementary, then it went to, we got about 30 apps. I can remember when I first came here interviewing 3 people for PE and choosing out of it. We don't have an app for high school PE yet. It's been advertised for 3 weeks. So it's just very, very hard to fill them. One thing when Heidi and I was talking today that I thought of that may be leading a little bit, when we added the TLC program, you know, for a district our size, that's taken 5 good teachers out of the classroom and put them in a teachership or a leadership role. And you have some bigger schools in there. My guess is you've taken 1,500 to 2,500 teachers out of the classroom and put them into a TLC role. And that's really hurt your just your numbers of staff that are consistent and stay in schools. Let me see what else. ESSER 3, like I said, we'll talk about that every month. If you've got questions on it, if people bring you questions, call me. I'll try to get you whatever information I have on it. As we talked about next year, where our plan is to use all 6 classrooms in this building. 2 issues that we still have to address. One is, what is the passing time going to need to be required for kids to come from that building to this building and back? It'd be nice if they can come over here and stay 2 periods and go back, but you may have kids that bounce between them. So what do we need to do for passing time, and what do we need to do for school day time to make sure we keep our 42-minute classes? The other issue is going to be, what do you do if it's pouring rain? You know, a sprinkle you can get over. If it's pouring rain, what is the plan to hold kids for so many minutes before you make them move from one place to another? Won't happen very often, but it will happen with the setup that we have. So we've got to keep that in mind.
Run fast.
Run fast.
They won't melt, they're not that sweet.
We have a very large kindergarten class and we have a large TK class. It's a good sign. That is before registration. A lot of times with those younger grades, when you come in to register, you have more kids that actually show up versus losing it. So that's something we'll keep an eye on. Right now, we are planning on 4 sections of kindergarten. That's great. We still need to find a kindergarten teacher for the 4th section. And then we'll have to monitor our TK and preschool numbers and try to fit them in the slots. Jared and I met today and we believe we have enough staff to cover the TK and preschool. We just have to figure out what our number is actually going to be and how we do that. Interventionist, part of the ESSER 3 money is that 20% of the money goes to helping lost learning. We have advertised for an interventionist at each building. We have received no apps for any of those positions. 20% is going to be, we're going to have to be creative on how to fill it. And we also won't fill interventionist positions so we get our classrooms filled. So we are offering summer school with it right now. I met with Heidi this morning or this afternoon about some PD and help at the high school to improve the reading and the lost learning. And those activities would all fall under that 20%. But 20% of 1.7 million is still 350,000. Staff can eat that up in 2 years. If you don't have staff, what are you going to do to, you know, summer school is not very expensive. What are you going to do to come up with that 20%? So we'll have to keep looking at those. The other thing we have is we are sharing a social worker with Claire, and we've approved that contract. I have another position that we're going to put at the elementary, which is a social worker, Spanish speaking, put them in charge of our migrant program and help with some of our translating needs. That we should have a contract in July for. Part of that is with our migrant program is not only going to be the family connection with that, but also the recruiter. I have a feeling that when I drive around town, I have a lot of families that move into town and they have little kids that are out playing during the school day. And I need to be able to touch base with them, figure out what their plan is and try to get them into school. So That's one of the main goals of that position, is to find those families, have the contacts necessary to make contact with them and try to get them into school. So
How many openings do we have?
for teachers, 6.
I was gonna say, is it one kindergarten or two with
No,
your resignation?
It's
that you
one
need?
kindergarten.
Okay,
So, but we've moved staff, you know, we have a kindergarten, a first grade, a second grade. This does not count the interventionists yet. Middle school special ed, high school PE, and another middle school special ed. And so then you have an interventionist at each level, and at the middle school, you have what we've done with the dropout prevention in the past, which was with Alyssa Dooley when she moved into a TLC role. So it's a second at-risk position there. But
well, and is the interventionist
middle school
a
science,
teacher-like profile, or what is an
Yeah, I was
interventionist?
gonna say, what's-
Pro,
So-
what would that person need to be qualified for?
interventionist is really somebody to improve with math and science, or sorry, math and reading. So at the elementary, we have a strong title program. We have a lot of staff in it. We're looking at somebody that you can kind of mirror what they do on the math side. At the middle school, it's helping kids that are behind in either reading, or really everything concentrates on reading and math. So what you can do to help catch those kids up, and at the high school, that's kind of a dropout prevention position is what it is. Some of it's credit recovery.
But you have to have like a
So you
four-year,
need-
like a teacher
You have to have a
degree type
teacher,
and
you have to have a
everything?
teacher
Okay.
degree to do it.
That was my question.
Yes, you have to have a teacher degree to do it. It's a licensed teacher position. But like I said, we aren't filling our
That's what I was
normal
gonna say.
ones, so I
That's-
don't know if we're
right.
gonna fill the intervention
Okay.
ones.
How long do we have to spend the SO3 money?
September 2023, and they're looking at extending that at least through the year. But I have not heard for sure if that's happening yet. I think it's going to happen, but I have not heard that. So you're looking at 2 more years with it.
Any other questions for Jess?
Do you know when this building will be done?
May 27th. So the fire marshal went through this building.
Apparently.
He did not like the panic hardware that was on some of the rooms, so they're going to have to redo some of the panic hardware, which you have to do from the fire marshal standpoint. There's a back order on that. It was 2 weeks out. They were supposed to do it last week. They still don't have it yet, so we're waiting for the parts. Once the parts are done, there hasn't been anybody working here.
Like, are they doing the ceiling here?
This is our responsibility. We
It
took
is?
that out for asbestos.
Oh.
That was not part of the bid.
I see.
But I have told Logan not to touch anything until they are done,
Hmm.
because I don't want to find issues and have them say, well, you guys did that.
Oh.
So once they are done, we've hired additional high school kids, and once we have checked out, the plan was to already have them in here, we'll bring in that crew of 3 or 4 kids and paint everything and put up the ceiling tile and do all of that. So right now, we're just in a waiting game. I don't know about last week because I wasn't here, but today there wasn't anybody here with it. So.
Any other questions? Time for our favorite motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
For George.
Thank you very much.